Hello, folks. Today we'll be talking about ReplicaSet. So ReplicaSet is used in Kubernetes. Basically, ReplicaSet is used in Kubernetes for resiliency, for scalability, as well as like kind of load balancing. So, for example, in Kubernetes, you have, let's say, a single pod, right? So, and that pod is running some application. But whenever the pod goes down, basically your application is down, right? So what you do is you can set up a replica set so that uh, the same replica of that pod can run into different nodes. So even if your one node goes down, you still have the resiliency for that application, right? So how do you create the replica set in Kubernetes? So let's look at that. So let me open the new file, which is, let's say, rc.yaml. And so first things which are essential for the for creation of replica set is you need a API version, then you need what kind of API you need, uh, right? This is the kind which is used, whether it is a pod or if it is a replica set, then you need to define that. And then the metadata part. Metadata is more details about the replica set. And then you have the spec section, right? And so you have the specs. So basically you pretty much need bare minimum, at least these things, right? So API version, as we know that it is on apps version 1. Replica set is on apps v1. As basically pod is also on apps/v1, right? So that is the API version. And then kind is, we define kind as replica set. Okay. And then we have the metadata part. So now for metadata, you have to define the, let's say, name. So what name you want for this replica set? So I can put something like, let's say, ABC replica set. And now one another important thing we need is labels for this, right? So we'll talk about that later, but we need labels. So in labels, we can define as app. So I'm saying that my app and the replicas, the app name could be, let's say, ABC. Okay. And then what type it is, whether it is, front end, back end, whatever. So I can say front end. And then we come to the spec part of it, right? So basically we have defined all this which is required. And then in the spec part, we will be defining the template. So template is nothing but the spec part is where actually your pod template will come, right? So because it will be as good as a single pod also. So I'm just defining that. So template will have, under the template, you will have metadata. And under metadata, you will have things like your name. So here I can say ABC pod. And then you will have labels. Because it might happen that some of the pods are already there running in your cluster, but you want to include them as in the main in the replica set. In that case, uh, you can use these labels and selectors, right? To say, let's say if you have 10-20 pods running and you want to create a replica set for 3 of them or 2 pods which are running there, or 1 pod which is running there, you can create a replica set YAML and create. First thing is you have to label the pod, and then you can create the YAML so that you can have those use those labels in your replication set, and so that you can scale the single pod which was there earlier, right? So I can say labels and in the labels I can define apps, which is my ABC app, and the type is again front end. Okay, and then now whatever we are typing right now, this is for the pod, right? But the pod is eventually used by the replica set object. I'll say spec, and then we'll say in the spec we have to define the spec of the containers. So container is there, and under the container we specify the name of the container. I can say this could be my nginx bucket. A name you can give anything, and the image is nginx. And then finally, under the template, you also need how many, when you want to scale this, how do you want to scale it? Like by how much amounts, right? So I can say scale it to, let's say 4. And then I can use the selector, which will, now in the selector, I have to match the labels, right? Match labels. And the type will be front end. So what we have done is we have created this replica set object. You can see that the portion from here specs onward, this is the definition of a pod. Only thing which we have added more is the labels. So for that pod, we label it as ABC, and the type is front end. And then the selector, we have saying that match this particular type. So if you label them, let's say you have a front end pod which is running and you want to create a replica set of that, you can label them first, and then you can create a replica set YAML object with replica numbers as well as matching the labels here, right? So that you can deploy this and scale from 1 to 4 or whatever number you want. I'm just gonna save this. And now in order to deploy, let's look at first what we have here. So again, you can create an alias and say alias k is equal to kubectl, and then say k get pods, remove all this, right? So let me remove. Let's do k get pods. I don't have anything. K get nodes. So we have this replica set. So let me deploy that. So it will be k apply minus f rc YAML. Looks like there is some problem here in line number 20. So let me jump to line 20. Looks like this has to be under the replica set. Now I can go ahead and deploy it, and looks like it is created. So if I go and do k get rc, no sorry, k get replicaSet shows me that there are 4 instances running. I can do k get pods, and you can see that I have my pods running there, right? Thanks for attending. Please stay tuned for the next exercise. Thanks. Bye.